Can the seller pay for a portion of the buyer's closing costs? And under what circumstances are they most likely to be agreed to by the seller? And when will they come up in the transaction? That's what we're going to discuss today, so pay attention. Hi, I'm Gordon Baker, and let's dive into what seller concessions are, what expenses they cover, and when it's most likely a seller will agree to them. First of all, seller concessions cannot go towards the down payment. They are applied toward buyer closing costs. Nor can a buyer get cash back at closing as part of seller concessions. They cover buyer closing costs such as the appraisal, title insurance, recording fees, prepaid taxes and insurance, HOA fees, and discount points. And if you need more information on buyer closing costs, check out this video. The maximum amount that can be covered depends on the loan type, down payment, and buyer occupancy. There is a range, but typically falls between 2 to 6%. Obviously, these have to be agreed upon by the seller. In fact, this comes directly out of the seller's bottom line. So don't be surprised if you make an aggressive offer and request significant concessions or contributions. You'll probably receive a counteroffer. Remember, sellers already have their own closing costs, such as title insurance, commissions, tax prorations, escrow, and recording fees. Now, when two identical offers are presented to a seller, one with concessions and one without, the sellers will obviously choose the one without. And in a seller's market like the one we just experienced, seller-paid concessions or contributions did not get a lot of traction. In fact, offers with concessions were the first to be rejected. As the market shifts toward a more balanced or buyer's market, concessions are becoming more acceptable. And time on the market can be a factor. If a home has been on the market for an extended period of time, the seller will probably be more likely to consider them. Here's a graph showing the percentage of homes that sold that included seller concessions, and the trend is increasing. Now, there are two times in the transaction that seller concessions or contributions may come up. As a buyer, you should know up front if you'll need help with closing costs if you've done a proper pre-qualification with a knowledgeable loan officer. On the pre-qualification form, line 9, it indicates if the buyer is or is not relying on seller concessions for closing costs. It is then confirmed in the contract on line 100 where the specific amount or percentage is requested from the seller. I hope you're enjoying this information. If that's the case, please click on the like and subscribe buttons and hit that notification bell. The next time seller concessions may come up is after the inspection. You may have items that come up in the inspection. You reach out to the seller and say, the inspection report noted 3 electrical outlets are defective, 4 roof shingles are broken, and by the way, the water heater is not working. You'd like these issues to be addressed. Now imagine the seller is out of state, and this means the seller or the realtor has to find 3 different trades and get the repairs scheduled and completed at least 3 days prior to the close of escrow. Wow, that's a lot to do in a short amount of time. What would be a better solution? Well, the buyer and the seller agree upon an allowance, aka contribution or concessions toward buyer closing costs, in lieu of addressing these issues. So what happens when a seller says, no, I'm not paying for buyer closing costs, but you really love the house? Well, another approach may be to increase the purchase price by the amount of the needed concessions. For example, say the list price is $400,000 and the buyer needs $3,000 or 0.75% of the purchase price in contributions for their closing costs. The buyer could submit an offer for $403,000 and ask for $3,000 in seller contributions. This will yield essentially the same net proceeds that the seller was looking for with a $400,000 price. But 2 caveats to remember with this approach. The buyer is essentially financing the closing costs since they will be included in the loan amount. Number 2, the property must appraise for the $403,000. Lastly, seller concessions may also be strategically used to lower the loan payment. In the current environment where interest rates have been a stumbling block for buyers, it might be an option to include discount points or an interest rates buy down as a seller concession in order to lower the buyer's interest rate and monthly payment. Make sure that you and your realtor review this with a loan officer to understand how much a reduction in the interest rate will cost. If you need to find out if you'll need seller-paid concessions, please reach out to me for the recommendation of a knowledgeable loan officer that can help out. Thank you.